If your life feels unusually quiet right now, this is not a coincidence. God didn't forget you, He's hiding you, and once you understand why, everything will change. Have you ever felt like your life suddenly went into silent mode, as if God turned down the volume on everything around you? People disappeared. Doors closed. Opportunities evaporated. What once felt clear now feels like one big question mark. There's a tightness in your chest, I know. Your mind starts questioning, your faith gets tested, and your heart wonders if you've been forgotten. But let me tell you something that can flip the switch right now. The silence you're living in is not abandonment, it's preparation. There is a powerful spiritual pattern that very few people talk about. Before the promise comes the process. Before glory comes the hiding place. God doesn't distance Himself to punish, He separates to protect. The isolation, the wilderness, the pain, and even this emptiness that feels unfair are all part of a greater strategy, aligned with God's timing and His purpose for your life. Just as a seed needs darkness to germinate, there are seasons where your spiritual identity can only be formed far away from applause. What if, instead of delay, all of this is divine protection? What if this isolation is the exact sign that something great is being incubated inside you? Throughout this message, you're going to understand why God hides before He exalts, how this process shapes character, spiritual maturity, and authority, and why, in the end, this will truly change everything. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may redefine how you see your own story. God never acts by accident, and the separation you're experiencing is part of a greater purpose. Before releasing the blessing, He begins a preparation process, because a promise without structure becomes a burden. Separation is not rejection, it's alignment with your destiny and with the spiritual identity being built within you. When God separates you, He is protecting your faith, refining your character, and leading you to a higher level of spiritual maturity. This is when inner transmutation begins, that silent change that reshapes your mindset, your decisions, and your vision. The blessing will come, but only when you're able to sustain it. When everything gets too quiet, the first reaction is to think God has stepped away. But often, silence is a sign that He is closer than ever, working behind the scenes. It's in this quiet space that faith matures and the renewal of the mind begins. God uses silence as a tool of preparation because He doesn't compete with external noise. While the world shouts, He whispers direction, purpose, and spiritual identity. What feels like emptiness is actually ground being prepared for something greater that is still to come. The isolation you're living in today is not punishment, it's divine protection in action. God removes you from environments, conversations, and influences that could compromise what is being formed inside you. When He separates you, it's because He knows the promise must be guarded before it's revealed. In this season, faith is refined and the mind begins to align with purpose. Isolation creates space for conscious decisions, strengthens consistency, and develops spiritual maturity. It may feel like loneliness, but it's God taking care of you behind the scenes. When we look at the Bible, it becomes clear that God always follows a pattern with those He chooses. Before glory, He leads them into the wilderness. Before exaltation, He allows isolation. Moses, Joseph, David, and even Jesus went through deep seasons of separation before stepping into the fulfillment of their calling. This pattern shows that the process is not the exception, it's the rule. God uses waiting seasons to form character, strengthen faith, and align purpose with destiny. If you're on this path, it doesn't diminish you, it confirms that you're being prepared for something greater. Before God places you in the spotlight, He takes you into hiding. This is the season where no one sees, no one applauds, and almost no one understands what's happening. But it's exactly there that the deepest preparation takes place, far from external pressure and expectations. In the hiding place, God works on your spiritual identity, adjusts your mindset, and strengthens your faith. It's like silent training, where purpose takes shape and the calling becomes clearer. The sending only happens when the inside is ready to sustain the outside. It's in silence that God's voice becomes clearer. When external noise fades, the heart begins to perceive directions that once went unnoticed. Silence is not empty, it's an invitation to listen with deeper spiritual sensitivity. In that quiet space, God adjusts decisions, heals wounds, and reveals details of purpose. This is where faith stops depending on external signs and starts resting on inner conviction. Those who learn to hear in silence never get lost in noise again. When certain doors close and certain people walk away, it feels like loss. But many times, it's God reorganizing the path. He removes connections that have fulfilled their role and closes access that could divert you from the purpose and destiny prepared for you. That separation hurts, stirs emotions, and tests faith, but it also brings clarity. This is where spiritual maturity grows and identity becomes stronger. Not every goodbye is rejection, some are divine protection in disguise. When God starts clearing the path, He removes excess weight and distractions that hinder the journey. Nothing in this process is random. Every adjustment is preparation for something greater. What leaves now makes room for what truly belongs to your purpose. This clearing touches habits, thoughts, and even old expectations. It's an invitation to renew the mind and experience inner transformation, just as Napoleon Hill taught, remove what no longer serves so the new can prosper. The path becomes narrower, but also clearer. When God separates you, He's not only distancing you from people or places, He's separating you from the old version of yourself. Certain thoughts, reactions, and patterns no longer match the destiny being prepared. This inner separation hurts because it touches identity, but it's essential for transformation. This is where the renewal of the mind becomes daily practice. Small decisions change. New priorities emerge. Faith begins to lead more than fear. God is forming a new you aligned with purpose and ready to sustain the promise that comes next. Anonymity is one of God's most powerful tools for shaping character. When no one is watching, when there is no applause or recognition, the heart reveals who we truly are. It's in this hidden place that spiritual maturity is built with strength and truth. During this time, God works on simple attitudes: consistency, discipline, faithfulness in small things. As Napoleon Hill taught, character is shaped by the quiet decisions of everyday life. Anonymity doesn't diminish you, it strengthens the foundation for the spiritual authority that will come later. Pain never arrives without purpose when God is in control of the process. It tightens, breaks expectations, and exposes weaknesses, but it also reveals areas that need healing and growth. What hurts today is preparing you to sustain something greater tomorrow. In this stage, brokenness becomes a powerful ally. Faith stops being just words and becomes daily practice, even without clear answers. Pain is not the end of the road, it's the tool God uses to transform you on the inside while the purpose matures on the outside. The fire of the process doesn't come to destroy, it comes to strengthen. It's under pressure, testing, and difficulty that God removes impurities and solidifies what is true. Just as gold is revealed through heat, your faith deepens through the fire. This moment requires consistency and trust in God's timing. Napoleon Hill said, adversity carries the seed of victory, and here, that truth becomes clear. The fire may feel intimidating, but it's what prepares you for the exaltation that follows. Isolation may feel like an ending, but spiritually, it's a planting season. When God hides you, He's not burying you to disappear, He's positioning you to grow at the right time. In the dark, away from eyes, something deep is being formed. Just as a seed needs soil to break through, this season is a necessary incubation. Here, faith deepens, the mindset adjusts, and transformation happens from the inside out. What feels like silence today will become visible harvest tomorrow. God's timing rarely matches human urgency, and that creates restlessness. But what looks like delay is actually fine-tuning the process. God works outside anxiety and inside precision, preparing every detail so the promise arrives at the right moment. While you wait, something in you matures. Faith strengthens, the mindset aligns, and perseverance is trained daily. God's timing doesn't delay dreams, it prevents unnecessary damage and protects the destiny being built. The hiding place is not the absence of movement, it's active protection. God hides you to preserve you, because not everything you desire to live right now is ready to receive you. In this discreet place, He prevents premature exposure that could harm your faith, character, and spiritual identity. While you're hidden, something essential is being adjusted inside. The mindset matures, decisions become firmer, and trust in God's timing grows. The hiding place doesn't paralyze purpose, it shields it for the right moment to manifest. Before releasing the blessing, God develops spiritual maturity. It's not punishment, it's care. He knows prosperity without emotional and spiritual structure can become a heavy burden. That's why the process comes before the harvest. In this stage, you learn to handle frustration, make wise decisions, and remain faithful even without immediate results. Maturity is born when trust stops depending on external signs and starts resting in purpose and God's timing. After the process, glory manifests naturally and consistently. It's not forced, and it's not sudden in God's eyes, it only seems fast to those who didn't see the journey. Glory is the visible reflection of a transformation that happened in secret. When it arrives, it comes with purpose, anointing, and spiritual authority. Nothing is shallow, everything has roots. Those who went through the process don't get lost in exaltation, because they know every achievement is the result of God's precise timing. True spiritual authority is not born on a stage, but in the secret place. It's in isolation, silent prayer, and unseen decisions that God builds inner strength. Those who are faithful when no one sees can sustain it when everyone does. This authority doesn't need to be imposed, it's recognized. It comes from spiritual maturity, proven character, and faith strengthened through the process. The secret place prepares you to lead, influence, and serve without losing yourself in exposure. Almost always, the desire to quit shows up when breakthrough is closer than ever. Fatigue increases, the mind questions, and the heart is tempted to stop. But this moment is not failure, it's the final phase of preparation. Here, faith is truly tested. Napoleon Hill said many give up one step before victory, and this happens spiritually as well. If you've made it this far, something big is about to move, and staying now makes all the difference. Perseverance is the silent proof that confirms who truly understood the process. It's not about strength, it's about consistency when everything feels still. Continuing to trust without visible signs is a deep act of faith and spiritual maturity. At this point, God watches the heart more than the results. Perseverance adjusts the mindset, strengthens character, and seals inner transformation. Those who remain to the end don't just receive the promise, they're ready to sustain the victory that follows. The separation you're experiencing is not exclusion, it's confirmation of being chosen. God separates those He trusts, those who carry a calling that cannot be shaped in the crowd. Being chosen hurts because it requires sacrifice, but it also honors because it reveals purpose. When you understand this, pain gains meaning and the process becomes lighter. Spiritual identity stabilizes, faith strengthens, and certainty about destiny begins to grow inside. Not everyone walks this path because not everyone could handle what's being prepared for you. There comes a moment when you realize that fighting the process only increases the pain. Embracing the process is a conscious decision, not an emotion. It's choosing to trust without understanding everything, aligning faith with God's timing, and moving forward with consistency. When you decide to embrace this path, something shifts inside. The mind calms, the heart strengthens, and transformation flows with greater ease. Napoleon Hill said every victory begins with a firm decision, and here, that decision is to trust the purpose while it's still being built. The words you speak have power to align your mind, your faith, and your actions with God's purpose. When you speak with intention, you're not just repeating phrases, you're activating an inner posture. Declarations strengthen spiritual identity and help the mind remain steady through the process. Start with simple affirmations daily, especially in moments of silence. I trust God's timing, I am in preparation, my process is not in vain. This builds emotional and spiritual consistency, something Napoleon Hill strongly emphasized when talking about mindset and focus. What you declare, you begin to live. Everything you've read so far points to a clear invitation: transform pain into decision and process into purpose. True transformation begins when you take responsibility for your journey, trusting God, adjusting your mindset, and walking by faith, even without visible guarantees. This calling is not for the perfect, it's for the available. Ordinary people who accepted fire, pruning, and silence as part of growth. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it becomes solid when you choose to live according to the new identity being formed. Now, I ask you honestly, what will you do with everything you've understood so far? Will you keep interpreting silence as abandonment, or will you see this season as preparation? Which habits need adjusting, which thoughts need renewing, and which decisions have you been postponing out of fear or insecurity? Transformation happens when knowledge becomes action. Start small, but start today. Create moments of silence, strengthen your faith, care for your mindset, and remain consistent even when there's no applause. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every message is designed to strengthen your journey, align your purpose, and help you sustain the victory when it arrives.